Welcome back to the Jon Krawczynski Show. Man, we have a lot to talk about. Jon had a big hit with his first live show for his show at Forgotten Star Brewing. We'll get into that a little bit, but we got news. We have an ownership change, and the Timberwolves now have a power forward. Let's get to that and all the ramifications, how they might even be intertwined here on the Jon Krawczynski Show. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
Hey, it's Lee for Aquarius Home Services. If you're heading to the state fair, between eating the cheese curds and the delicious cookies, stop by the Connecticut Water Treatment booth in the Home Improvement Building. The team will show you how you can enjoy worry-free Connecticut water in your home every day. No worries if you can't make it to the fair. As your independent authorized dealer, Aquarius will bring the state fair treatment to you. Schedule your free in-home water test at aquariushomeservices.com.
Jon Krawczynski Show is also presented to you by Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. I'll tell you about them and our other sponsors here in a second. Make sure to watch us on YouTube and follow the Jon Krawczynski Show on Instagram and Facebook so you'll see each episode as it is released. And check out the other great shows at TalkNorth.com. Mark Rosen's had some great guests lately. Don Mitchell's show, Russo and LaPanta on hockey, Lavelle and myself, and Roy Smalley on the Twins, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of great shows. Jon, let's get to it. Do you want to start with the ownership, Kuminga, or is it all one big package?
I mean, it is all one big package that I think we can get to, but I just think that just to start, Jim, in one of the newsiest Augusts I can ever remember, for the Timberwolves to get a player like Jonathan Kuminga at a position of need while offering half as much money and one less year as the Los Angeles Lakers did in free agency, I just think that we can't overstate how big that is. And look, Jonathan Kuminga is not LeBron James. He's not like an all-star level player at this point in his career. He's got a lot of questions to answer and things to prove. But ultimately what happened is the Timberwolves went into these last couple of weeks really kind of needing Jonathan Kuminga because they didn't have another option out there in free agency to really address their thinnest spot on the roster. And they had to get into a bidding war, essentially a recruiting battle with the Los Angeles Lakers for Kuminga services. The Lakers were offering a possible starting spot. The Wolves were offering a possible starting spot. The Lakers were offering more than $12 million per season. The Wolves could only get to $6 million. And yet, with a huge kind of recruiting push from Mark Lowry, or from Mark Stad, and Alex Rodriguez, and Tim Connolly, and Anthony Edwards, and a bunch of Timberwolves teammates, they were the ones that outmaneuvered the Lakers in free agency for a player both teams coveted. And I just think that in covering this team for almost 25 years now, I've literally never seen that happen before for the Wolves in free agency. And so I just think it's a big day for the Wolves that way, even though you wouldn't say that Kuminga is just like this can't miss, no questions asked, all-star level player. He was a player who was coveted by the glamour franchise in professional sports, and the Wolves got in there and got him for half of the money that the Lakers were offering.
Is that because Kuminga was looking to make a purely basketball decision, or because he thinks this will regenerate his career, or because he had a personal connection? Why do you think he made the decision to come here? He could have signed with the Bulls too for a lot of money, I think.
Right. Yeah. The Bulls were in. Cleveland was in before they traded for Peyton Watson. There were a couple other teams that were sniffing around as well. Portland, I think. But from what I understand, and talking to people all around the process, the push for the Wolves that ownership got involved in, that Anthony Edwards was really involved in, that Tim Connolly went down and met face to face with Jonathan Kuminga in Miami. Chris Finch talked to him on the phone several times and really kind of let Jonathan Kuminga know exactly what role was available for him and how they would use him. And ultimately, I think what it came down to is Jonathan Kuminga has always believed that he is a big money player, that whether he was with Golden State or Atlanta, he thinks that he deserves a contract north of $20 million a year. That market has not been there for him yet. And so he looked at this opportunity coming to Minnesota, to a team that expects to play deep into the playoffs, on a team with really high caliber starting lineup. He looked at it as an ability for him to sort of prove himself to the league and really kind of repair the value that he has. And so, he was not looking or as interested in a bigger money deal from the Lakers, which is like 3 years and close to $40 million was what they were offering. He wanted, the 1 year chance, and he has a player option for the second year, but he wanted 1 year to really come in, prove himself, show the impact that he can make, and then go back out into the market and see what's there, either from Minnesota or from another team. And so it just sounds like the full court press that the Timberwolves put on really showed to him that they value him, that they will give him an opportunity to have a very big role on this team, and that with LaMelo Ball throwing him lobs, with Anthony Edwards taking a lot of the focus away from the attention from the defense away from him, that he just sees an opportunity to have a really good year. And so he ultimately, in the end, looked at it and said, I think that coming to Minnesota is the best basketball fit and the best top to bottom situation for me over going to the Lakers or the Bulls or any other team, and ultimately made that decision. So it was just, it's a unique situation. And I think that we've heard the Timberwolves, and we heard Tim Connolly talk about this at the start of the summer, saying that, hey, look, they were going to have to be creative. They were going to have to offer opportunity and culture and reputation as a team that takes players and makes them better. Look at Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Look at a lot of the other players that have come through here. And I think that they sold that to Jonathan Kuminga. And so this is really kind of a stamp of validation for the last 4 or 5 years of the Wolves' development. Forever and ever, players would look at the Wolves and say, it's cold there. They don't have as much money. There's no way I'm coming here. You couldn't force me to. And now players are actively choosing the Timberwolves situation over other teams. And I think that there's just a lot that goes into it that has changed the perception of this organization league-wide.
He's simply going to be the power forward, right? Or is there some competition, or is there some doubt there?
Well, I mean, I think that right now, I think they've told him that the power forward position that's in the starting lineup is wide open for him. And he's 6'7", 225 pounds, so he's an athletic guy with size, with strength, he can rebound. So all of that makes sense for him to have that role in the starting lineup. The Wolves do also have depth, though. They have Terrence Shannon Jr. They have, Jaden McDaniels could slide down to the floor if you need it. They have Jalen Clark. They have Trey Lyles. And so they will have other options to look at. But I do believe that throughout this process, the Wolves were telling Jonathan Kuminga, telling Aaron Turner, his agent, that, look, we have an opening in the starting lineup here. Come and get it, basically. And so they are going to go into training camp with the belief that Kuminga can play that spot. And he still will have to show some things, of course, Jim. I mean, he had up and down moments with the Golden State Warriors, had a great playoff series against the Timberwolves 2 years ago, but ultimately it seemed like not a good fit between player and system, between what the Warriors wanted out of him and what Jonathan Kuminga thought he was best at providing. And so the Warriors cut him loose. Then he goes to Atlanta, plays pretty well, puts up some good numbers, played well in the playoffs for the Hawks, and yet they still turned down his team option at $24 million to make him a free agent. And so he's got to come to this team and show that he can be a team player, that he can fit into what the Wolves need, and he is going to be part of a very high-powered starting lineup, or at least, top 7, top 8 guys. And so he's not going to be the first option or the second option. He probably won't be the third option either with Jaden McDaniels here. But if he can show that he can bring defensive versatility, that he can grab rebounds at a high rate, that he can get out in transition, that he can catch lobs, that he can score cutting to the basket, and that he can be a real additive part to a veteran team that wants to win at a high level, then he's going to get all the money that he wants in free agency coming up. But there are going to be questions that he has to answer along the way here as well. He's not the perfect player. He's had some dings on his resume that have caused the market to not exactly be a frenzy for him this summer. And so this is going to be his opportunity to show that he's going to be a really, good fit on both ends of the floor. And then he can use that to parlay into long-term security either here or elsewhere. But I think that everything that Jonathan Kuminga wants is here. Now he's got to go get it.
More on Kuminga, but I also want to get to the ownership situation, which I find fascinating. First, let's hear from Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than our good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they've got you covered with 2 great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
Also want to thank the OG advertisers on this show, TSR Injury Law, our friend Steve Terry and his staff that we've gotten to know over there. They've done wonders by helping people. They help people win cases. They help people get money that they deserve. Because of that, they've gone from a very small operation to a very large, successful operation, and they haven't changed their goal. They want to help you out. If you're ever injured, call 612-TSR-TIME, 612-TSR-TIME. We also want to hear more about Forgotten Star Brewing, and congratulations, John, on the massive crowd you brought along with Tim Connolly and Matt Lloyd. I was not able to be there, obviously, and it sounded like a great success.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see everyone come out for the first show there. We had a really good space. We gave away a lot of great tickets and other prizes, and Tim Connolly and Matt Lloyd were just amazing as the conversation goes. So if you haven't seen that show yet, go to YouTube and check that out. But also, kind of mark it on your calendar. We'll have another show, I think, in October, sometime before the season starts, with some more great guests, and couldn't be more excited for our partnership with Forgotten Star. Just minutes north of the North Loop, there's a tap room worth the drive. Forgotten Star Brewing lives inside a historic World War II manufacturing plant that once built artillery for the U.S. Navy, and today it pours some of the best beer in the Twin Cities. We're talking award-winning beers, sizzling smash burgers hot off the griddle, and one of the most beautiful patios you'll find anywhere in the metro. History under your feet, a cold pint in your hand, and room to soak up the sun. Forgotten Star Brewing, come find it.
Fascinating ownership change at a very high price tag. Take us through everything involving the ownership change.
Yeah, and we'll start with the news of the day, because this, as we've seen over the last now year, but really even earlier this summer, you're starting to see a little bit of volatility in the ownership ranks, especially in the NBA. The Los Angeles Lakers just abruptly sold kind of out of nowhere from Mark Walter to Josh Kushner and Bob Iger. And that was kind of more, it looks like, brought on under duress, because Mark Walter is, the subject of a federal probe into his businesses. And it looks like he's kind of unloading things because he really has to address some issues that he has in his own business and personal world. But in this case, you have Mark Lowry essentially just stepping down the ladder in the investment group from number 1 to number 3, and selling controlling interest to Mark Stad and his wife, Elisa Stad. And this constitutes not a wholesale change in the ownership ranks like the Lakers. So we don't have a situation where a brand new owner is coming in and, it's going to take the entire organization getting to know that person and trying to find out the vision and probably making major changes to staffing and to the way things are done because they have a different kind of view of how things should work. Whereas Mark Stad was the number 3 investor with Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez in this ownership group. He's been very quiet and under the radar for his tenure with the Wolves and really for the way that he conducts business in general. If you look online and try to find any really public information about Mark Stad, there's not a ton of it out there, and that's all by design. He's a very private person. He wants to stay behind the scenes, but talking to people with the Timberwolves, over the last couple of years, Mark Stad has been involved in what has been going on, in decisions that are made, and kind of meeting and talking with Tim Connolly, discussing with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry the kind of the visions for arena, for the business side of the operation, for the basketball side of the operation. And so him buying the controlling interest and sort of ascending to the top rung of the ladder really is just allowing the Timberwolves to be kind of continuing their everything that they've laid out under Mark Lowry. And this is great news for Alex Rodriguez as well, who increased his stake with the Timberwolves and will even be more, I think, of the public front man because of Mark Stad's preference to stay behind the scenes. But Stad and A-Rod are working hand in hand, and you will see Alex Rodriguez a ton, I think, next season. You will see Mark Stad some, but this really does just work out very smoothly, I think, as far as a change of ownership goes. Mark Lowry has to devote all of his time, all of his financial resources to this the company Wonder that he's trying to take public, I think as soon as early next year. And he cashes out at an incredible investment level, going from $1.5 billion to $4.5 billion. Valuation is unbelievable. He is still going to be involved, though. He is still a limited partner with this group. He's not leaving entirely. He's just taking a step back. And so it's kind of been messaged, and I think it's legit, as like, this is continuity. This is kind of the same group staying together, just organized in a different way. And so there's no concerns about moving the team. There's no concerns about major changes to the front office or coaching staff. I think everyone is on the same page here. It's just Mark Stad is the new kind of lead dog, and Alex Rodriguez is going to be even more prominent, in his partnership with Mark Stad, who is more well-resourced than Mark Lowry. He has more money. He's going to be really aggressive, as we've seen just with the Kuminga deal. We can get into that a little bit more, but that was a Mark Stad production in some ways, and just kind of encouraging Tim Connolly to be really aggressive going after Jonathan Kuminga. And so already we're seeing kind of a little bit of a change in just the aggression of it, and so this is the new world that the Timberwolves live in, that the Wolves fans live in, and we'll kind of see exactly how things play out. But it was certainly a surprise when it came up last week, and I was in Hawaii trying to get my feet in the sand.
I will say I love Stad's resume, the way he, there are a lot of rich people in the world who make their money without impressing anybody. I think the way he's done it, the way he has behaved as a rich person, his charitable instincts, his wife, it feels like this is a win.
Yeah, I would say the early impressions, and again, letting everyone know that there's not a ton publicly available about him. I've said hello to him once or twice over the last couple of years, but I don't have a real sort of relationship with him or anything yet. Still getting to know him, but when you talk to people who do know him, there is something compelling to his story. He told the Harvard alumni where he went to college, he was the first person in his family to graduate high school. Then he gets to Harvard and he doesn't have money for a winter coat, so he has to kind of get involved with a charitable arm of Harvard that buys coats for kids who were in need, and then he builds himself into this incredible wonderkind tech investor. He's invested in OpenAI and Anthropic and Uber and DoorDash and all of the major tech companies. Generally speaking, Markstad and Dragoneer Investment Group were in on the ground floor on. And to your point, he and his wife Elisa kind of opened a center at the University of California, San Francisco hospitals that helps children who are in debilitating pain, and he's donated to political campaigns and things like that. And early indications are, you look at it and you say, okay, this guy has has a good heart, that kind of he puts his money to good use. But he's also a mega billionaire who has built the Dragoneer into a $35 billion asset management company, and has, and so we'll see sort of how much more comes to light on who he and Elisa are and how they move and how they operate. But I think two things are attractive. One is that he is clearly really well financed, that he has the resources to be a lead owner. He also has great relationships with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry to just kind of keep this thing moving in the direction that they want to move it in. And I think that this organization would have suffered some serious whiplash if Mark Lowry sold to an outside group. And talking to people about the market, I think he could have got north of $5 billion from an outside investment group, but he decided to keep it in-house and go in this direction. And I think that just allows people to not have to go through all of the trauma of a brand new ownership group coming in, like they just did in the last couple of years, as it kind of moved from Glenn Taylor to Markstad. To Mark Lowry. So that's just a very smooth operation, and we'll see how he really runs it. But to your point, their first test was Jonathan Kuminga, and from what I'm told, Markstad and Alex Rodriguez both told Tim Connolly, hey, if you have to waive and stretch Josh Green to make this, to increase the offer to Jonathan Kuminga to make it attractive to him, you can do that. And what that means is, if the Wolves cannot trade Josh Green, and they will try to trade him, they would have to waive and stretch, which would stretch out his $14.5 million over 3 seasons instead of just paying him this year. And that means you would have $5 million essentially on the books in, this year, next year, and the year after, when he's not on the roster. And that's not a great use of resources, but Markstad was very excited about the prospect of Jonathan Kuminga coming in here. And so he said, do what you have to do. And I think that's a sign that he's willing to be invested, that this ownership group is willing to be invested, and they were able to get up to $6 million. And I think that was easier for Jonathan Kuminga to take than it would have been for him to swallow hard and take a $3.6 million vet minimum deal. And so that's a good first impression for Markstad and Elisa Stad to make. And, we'll see how they build on that going forward.
More on Kuminga in a minute. First, though, let's hear more about True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute, go to truevision.com, set up a free consultation, and then head down to the offices at True Vision and get yourself checked out, just like I did more than 2 years ago now. I got LASIK at True Vision, and it has changed my life. No more hassles with contacts and eyeglasses. I just went to Hawaii, traveling without having to lug the glasses or contacts around, and the contact solution and all those things is so much easier. And really, they just make this whole process easy. They bring you in, they educate you on your options, and then they get you from start to finish on whatever procedure or means of vision correction you take, and it just goes so easy. They take great care of you. Everyone is so warm and welcoming. Dr. Chu is phenomenal to work with. And so I just can't recommend going to True Vision enough. So go to truevision.com, set up your consultation, tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you, and then head down to their offices in Bloomington and get going with your rest of your life in your vision correction with True Vision.
SGLambchops.com sponsors the Twitter question we always have at the end of this show. What's going on with SGLambchops.com?
Yeah, if you go to SGLambchops.com, Lamb Chops was great. They were out at our live show at Forgotten Star. We have a Jon Krawczynski Show t-shirt collaboration with them now. They have great hats, great sweatshirts, sweaters, t-shirts, all the things that you need to look good and to feel good. They have it at Lamb Chops. You'll see their stuff being worn around the North Loop, around Target Center, at Wolves and Lynx games. Jordan and Craig are sitting courtside at those games all of the time, and they're just a part of this community. I love being involved with community companies that give back, that are involved, that are visible around the area, and Lamb Chops is. So if you go to sglambchops.com, use the promo code JONK20, you get 20% off anything you can get at Lamb Chops.
Also, Wings Credit Union sponsors our links segment of the show. We're going to get to the links here in a second, but we want to hear more about Wings Credit Union.
Wings fans, you're going to want to hear this. Wings Credit Union, the official credit union partner of the Minnesota Lynx and Timberwolves, now has a Lynx branded debit card that comes with some great fan perks. Open any Wings checking account, choose the Lynx debit card, and every time you use it, you'll have a chance to win tickets to a Lynx home game or autographed merchandise. You can also score discounts on concessions at Target Center and get access to exclusive ticket offers throughout the season. So if you're looking for an easy way to show your Lynx pride every day, this is it. Upgrade your banking game, support Minnesota hoops, and head to wingscu.com/Lynx to open your account today. Wings Credit Union is insured by NCUA. Membership is required. Account requires an associated Wings Lynx debit card.
All right, let's talk about the Lynx. Olivia Miles actually had a bad game. And it's shocking that it's shocking. It's shocking that a rookie, she finally has a bad game, and it happens like in late August. And also the Golden State Valkyries are really good, and they're making a push. And I think they have the best record in the league this month. They're a hard team to play against, and they were sick of losing to the Lynx. They'd never beaten the Lynx in their history. They played like that was their Super Bowl. They played great. The Lynx had a rare, terrible offensive game. They were also missing Courtney Williams. But honestly, let's be honest, for a while now, the Lynx have been so far out front. They're just kind of easing toward the FIBA World Cup break, and then they're going to be easing toward the playoffs. All that really matters is having this team healthy when they go into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so. And, it is news when the Lynx lose. Like, that's just the season that they're having now. And it certainly is news when Olivia Miles doesn't play well, because it almost never happens. And so you look at that game in particular, and we do have to give credit, as you said, like, the Valkyries are a very good, very defensively versatile team that can make it hard to get shots. And I think they really did make it hard on Olivia Miles in that game. And the Lynx did really miss Courtney Williams' just like ability to hit that pull-up jumper, late in the shot clock, when, off of the dribble, when things are not working and the offense is broken down. And that was an element that was sorely lacking in that game. And yeah, I actually like, and I think Cheryl Reeve said it after the game, but I like it when Olivia Miles is challenged, when she doesn't play well, because she's going to learn more from that game probably than she learned from a lot of the other games where she was, just controlling everything from start to finish. Rookies, players in this league, they have to be challenged. They have to be sort of have their eyes open to everything that is going to be combating them all throughout, and it's only going to get harder for Olivia Miles in the playoffs. So a little adversity is good for everyone, and it allows you to have just a little bit of a reality check and just say, look, this rookie season has been electric, has been charmed, it has been everything that you could hope for and more. But every once in a while, you're going to come up, on a night where the shots aren't falling, or the turnovers are happening, or the double teams are just a little bit more bothersome, and you're going to have to learn from that. And Olivia Miles will learn from that. The entire team will. And when you get Courtney Williams back, you have another sort of outlet and answer to the problems that the Valkyries present, and the Lynx should be just fine. But these nights are going to be very additive over the long haul, both for this season and for the rest of Olivia Miles' career, just to kind of keep her ascending and on the trajectory to stardom that she's already very much on.
And as we talked about the sale of the Timberwolves and Lynx, the Lynx, I think their valuation's gone from something like $80 million not that long ago to about $400 million, which is both deserved, but also a great indicator of where women's basketball is headed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you looking at valuations for every franchise are going through the roof, but I mean, I think Unrivaled just was valued at $650 million. And now the Lynx, and if the Timberwolves and Lynx have a new arena, that valuation is only going to go up even more. Another important point on the ownership transition is that Alex Rodriguez was the governor of the Lynx with Mark Lowry in his partnership. That has not changed. He's going to remain the governor of the Lynx with Mark Stad as the main partner. And so, again, more continuity for the Lynx as well. And what you had always heard from Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry about the approach with the Lynx is that they were just so confident that Cheryl Reeve and that team has things under control, that they were kind of taking the approach of, look, you do what you do and keep doing it. We're not going to mess anything up here. We don't want to get in the way. And they have empowered Cheryl Reeve to make moves, to make draft picks, to do what needs to be done to put an incredible roster on the court. And I think that's only going to continue now with this new ownership group, and maybe with a little bit more money at their disposal, there'll be some bells and whistles that can happen for the Lynx. But overall, it's status quo, and they're in strong position, both for the near term and then the long term future, with Olivia Miles and Nafisa Collier at the helm, and all of the talent around them.
We'll get more into the rotation and the roster and who's going to do what and what this means for their depth and all that. For today, I want to hear how you think Kuminga is going to fit in offensively with that group, assuming he's in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point to make on Jonathan Kuminga's arrival is, how is he going to approach this role? Because he did take much less money for what he sees as a better basketball fit. But I think one of the crucial components of whether this will work or not is, does Jonathan Kuminga come in here and say, I took this essentially 1-year deal to up my value, and so I'm going to be super aggressive offensively. I'm going to be taking as many shots as possible. I'm going to get my stats up as much as possible so I get that big deal down the road. When in reality, I think the best case scenario for him is to look at it as, I don't necessarily need to average 20 and 10 on this team to get that big deal. What I need to show the rest of the league is that I can do all the dirty work, that I can be a really high-level role player on this team and help Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball and Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert take this team to another level from a just overall team winning aspect. Now, he played on a championship team with the Golden State Warriors. But I think that there is a perception around the league that at some points in his career, Kuminga has valued individual production and role over team success. And the Timberwolves have sold him on coming in here and being a part of this team and being a part of team success. And if he does, Jim, if he comes here and they win at a really high level and they go deep in the playoffs and Kuminga is a big part of it, and maybe he averages 14 points and 8 rebounds or 7 rebounds, something like that, but he shoots efficient percentage, he plays great defense, he does a lot of the little things that this team needs to match up against the San Antonios and the Oklahoma Cities of the Western Conference, then he's going to have teams banging down his door to pay him $20 million plus. And so how Jonathan Kuminga embraces this role is just going to be so huge. And the other part about that, Jim, is he's making $6 million, which means that if he doesn't do things the way that the Wolves need him to do it, they are not beholden to him in any way to just give him more starts and more minutes and more shots. Like, they can say, okay, like, if you're not adhering to what this team needs, we're going to put someone else in there and we're going to kind of put you on the bench and have you in a reserve role. So that's sort of the hammer that Chris Finch has available to him, because this is not like Julius Randle, who was, a former All-Star, making a ton of money. And, when things weren't working out with Julius, like, Chris Finch just really hung with him and just said, hey, we need you. You're staying. We're keeping your role. We're going to keep going to you over and over again. But with Jonathan Kuminga, there just isn't that status. There isn't that kind of financial heft that he's carrying with him. And so he does have to come in with a chip on his shoulder, with I'm going to show them type of an attitude, but showing everyone in the right way. That's going to be the whole key to success for Jonathan Kuminga in Minnesota.
Good stuff. Let's get to our Twitter question, sponsored by sglambchops.com. Thanks again to Forgotten Star Brewery for putting on such a great live show last week. And now let's get to our Twitter question of the week.
A lot of great Twitter questions. And again, I just do want to emphasize how much fun we did have at Forgotten Star right before I left on vacation. I mean, there were over 200 people there packing it in. We've actually had conversations with Forgotten Star about even going to the bigger tap room for some of these shows to give even more people a chance to get in there. It was standing room only at the back, and it was just a really great vibe in there with a really great conversation. We had great questions from fans after Tim Connolly and Matt Lloyd were done, but Tim and Matt both did an amazing job. And so I'm just kind of looking through our Twitter questions right now. And here's a great one from Rex Spaceship. Will Na call Kuminga and tell him what he actually needs to do to get a bag? Good rebounder and defense. Focus on that. I was excited for good spacing for once. Back to being a problem? ? And it's a huge point that the Timberwolves are going to make with Jonathan Kuminga. That when Nickeil Alexander-Walker came to Minnesota, there were a lot of doubts about what he brought as a player, about his ability to be impactful and play winning basketball. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker himself had trouble kind of getting a foothold in this league because he kind of saw himself more as an offensive-minded player, and he wanted to score a lot as a first-round pick and wanted to make his presence felt that way. But what happened for him in Minnesota was he really just embraced the role that was needed. Perimeter defender, make open shots, be reliable on both ends of the court, make smart decisions, don't try to do too much, but also do a lot for the team. And it ultimately ended up in him, going from a player who was probably on his way out of the league to a player who now is in Atlanta, an incredibly valuable player, and has made himself into a starter and a player who's going to make a lot more money even after this contract that he just signed with the Hawks. And so I think that is the pitch that they give to Kuminga. You come in here and you do what is needed to be done from a team aspect, and all of that money is going to come your way. Now, yes, he doesn't space the floor. He's not a 40% three-point shooter, so they'll have to work a little bit around that. But I do think like the way that he dives to the basket, the way that he kind of can create for himself, the way that he cuts and catches lobs, I do think he brings a different dimension that Chris Finch can still utilize at a high level. And, you know, it'll be up to Jonathan Kuminga how many minutes, the role, and everything that he gets with the way that he approaches it. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was an absolute godsend in terms of the humility that he showed. And the way that he built himself up, and Kuminga's got to kind of come in with that same mindset. And if he does, it's going to work out really, really well for him in the long haul.
Good question. Good show. Thanks to Jon. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to everyone who came to Forgotten Star Brewing for the live show. We have a lot to talk about now in terms of roster, rotation, the bench. We'll get to all that next week. Also, check out Jon on the Viking Update show. We have 3 Viking shows going right now, and with everything happening with J.J. McCarthy, they're all pretty fascinating. So thanks for listening to TalkNorth.com. Check out the website. Subscribe to the shows you like on your favorite podcast app, and we will talk to you here at the Jon Krawczynski Show next week.